Welcome everybody to the SGBL podcast. I'm here with my host Adem
Heyo.
and with our wonderful guest today, one of my best friends in the draft community, Sirkill. How are you doing today, man?
Hello, good morning, good evening. How's everybody? Circle here. Hope all is well.
Sir, so I think what a lot of people don't know is you and I think we met each other about a year and a half ago in an Ubers league. You want to talk
Mm.
about how we met and how we first started getting acquainted with each other?
Yeah, it was around 1.5 year ago. So it was the SBC, the
Uh-huh.
Safari Battle Camp. So there's a little bit of a story behind that. So even before, I think even a year prior, one of my friends, so a person I knew, they were like they used to play in SBC and they were a video maker and all that stuff. And they were trying, like, that was one league where they were like going, try hard in it and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And what happened was that I was looking at their videos and their prep sounded very shady, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, but they somehow got into the playoffs, right? So I invited this guy and to one of my friends' help servers, and we helped him get to the finals in SPC. Unfortunately, he just didn't play well in the finals, so he didn't win it and all that stuff. So it
Yep.
was more so like I wanted to join that, and I wanted to kind of win it for him.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it didn't go that well, unfortunately, but that's besides the point. So yeah, coming back to that, if I remember correctly, we were in the same division. We were in the higher Ubers division. I forgot what the name was.
Not, I don't remember
Yeah,
either.
I don't know, whatever. It was the higher Ubers division, and we if I yeah, I remember I was doing the power rankings video for our division, and yours was one of the teams I really, really liked. So I was like, oh wow, there's Ho, there's Mew, there's Megadiancy. Oh, this is such a beautiful team. So I messaged you. I was like, yo, bro, your team is so cool, man. I'm such a big fan of it. And then I think we just started talking from there and started discussing game plans and everything. I think, yeah, and we just hit it off from there.
Yeah, I remember at the time, that was my first Ubers League that I ever did, and, I remember watching that power rankings video. I was like, "Oh, I'm really happy people like my draft and everything. Hopefully, I can actually." And that the pressure, when people hype up your draft, and then you have to now go and perform. I was ready to just fall on my face with that one because I never really played Ubers. I never even played Ubers like ever on the ladder. So I had no experience with the Ubers Mons whatsoever. So I thought, okay. And there were some really good players in that league, like looking after the fact. Obviously yourself and there's people like Dashing and Orn and there's dudes like that in that league who were, if I'm not mistaken, that season who it was just like another level for myself who was still relatively new to draft as a whole and doing a format I was like completely new to. But yeah, I remember we vibed right off the bat. Like we were just talking about our teams and game planning week to week, and you were teaching me some things, in terms of investing and how to properly invest. And you were like one of the first people I learned that from. And I thought, wow, okay, this is what a good resource to have because this dude really knows what he's talking about and maximizing everything. So I remember, and you were just one of the most chill dudes in the world. I was like, this is really cool to meet someone like this who not only is one of the best draft league players out there, if anyone doesn't know already, they should know. Like you are really one of the best players in the community. But on top of it, you're also one of the nicest, most chill dudes out there too. And you were definitely one of my favorite people I've met since I've started this a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, likewise, same to you. I mean, I really, really enjoyed when we used to talk with each other and all that. It's sad we couldn't face each other in like an actual serious game that league because I really wanted to face you in like the finals. of that league, but yeah,
We were so
both of the
close.
us. Yeah, we did play a meme game.
It was my favorite. It was one of my favorite meme games ever. Oh my god.
That
You
was
brought I brought
yeah.
triple weather, but they allowed snow cloak. So instead of bringing triple weather, like all like speed boosting abilities, I brought snow cloak on Alolan Sand Slash, Chlorophyll Tangela, and Swift Swim Seismitoad.
Oh
And
yeah, that Seismitoad was scary.
bro, I think one of the highlights of that match for me was when my Sand Slash dodged a flamethrower from Muck. I was
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we just sat there. We're like, what are we supposed to do about that?
I knew I asked for the rule. Yeah, the thing was with that, I asked for the ruling beforehand. And I was
Yeah,
like,
you
"Guys,
told me.
is this ability allowed?" And they're like, technically, yes, it is, because we didn't ban it or whatever. They had banned like almost every other format of like evasiveness boosting, but that one wasn't. And I was like, oh my god, this is hysterical. So I'm not gonna run another speed boosting ability. I'm actually gonna run, Snow Cloak. And the thing was, I wasn't gonna run Seismitoad with Swift Swim. I was gonna run it with poison points and just fish for poison hacks. But when I had
Mm,
two other weather users, I was like, I gotta. And then you obviously cheated to win that game by critting my Pikachu at the end. We'll
yeah,
disregard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Good
with the
old.
legit calc.
Yeah,
What was it? It was laser focus. Was it
Xerneas.
terrain pulse in mystery terrain, Xerneas? And then I had hyper beam on it for good measure. I think
Yeah,
that it
that
was
Hyper
something
Beam
like
crit on
that.
Pikachu mattered. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah. That season, my Xerneas popped off. Oh, like it went something like 27-2 in like 8 games or something crazy like that. It was funny because that Xerneas was being talked about in the other servers at the time. So
Mhm.
I'd go in the other servers like, oh, you're like, oh my god, you're Sirkill. We heard you're the legendary Xerneas just sweeping everyone in SBC and all that.
Yeah,
I was like, I was so surprised because people who I had not met knew about the Xerneas. The Xerneas threat was at that point, but yeah,
yeah. I think they like had Xerneas like a couple points lower than it normally is tiered now.
no, no. So
Did they
Xerneas
not?
was
Or was it
fine.
Solgaleo? You had both
It
of them.
was a Solgaleo. I was back wheel, right? I was at the back, right? Like wheel.
Yeah.
So I saw the Solgaleo, and I'm like, okay, I've not used them on, and it's not the best Uber, but I
Mhm.
think 22 is way too low for it.
Yeah.
Like Mega Metagross was above it, and I know for a fact it's better than Mega Metagross. So I drafted it, and that Solgaleo was so good. Like it was like really really fun to use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you talk
remember you
about a
popped
great
off with it.
pairing.
Yeah,
What was that of
I
them?
had a
I don't know, I was gonna say just that's such a great pairing of like two Ubers to have, so Galio and Xerneas, because they just cover each other almost perfectly.
yeah. I ran a lot of the time I ran it Spadef that league. Just defensive Spadef because I just didn't need the offensive power on it because I had a very, very offensive team. I think I had like was it I had Zapdos, Infernape, Weavile, like I had a lot of offensive threats on one team. So yeah, a lot of times I just didn't need to run offense on the Solgaleo.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, when you have all these offensive powerhouses, you could be more flexible with these crazy bulky Ubermons that just have a million different sets because of their just great natural bulk. It's just great to be able to run it in different ways that's typically not ran.
Yeah. That's why I like Ubers. It's actually my favorite proper meta to play basically. Like like the metas that are usually played. It's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah.
Ubers is
Uh,
like niche for me.
yeah, Uber's a lot of fun. So, what would you say is like your favorite pairing of Ubers to get? Because typically Uber formats kind of limit you to two mons. What would you say are some of your favorite pairings that you've used or seen?
So in like so just in general, what I've drafted or like what I've seen before, because there are some Uber leagues where there was like no point cap, so I've had some very, very, very disgusting pairings. So, anyways, I'll just talk about both of them. So with point cap, I think that Xerneas Solgaleo was just so fun. I think that was. I don't think I could have done a better pairing than that in that tour, given the point cap.
Mhm.
Then, if you want to talk about leagues where there's like no point caps for Ubers and all that, so in our recent SGBL season, I had Xerneas, Solgaleo, Mega Salamence, and Zamazenta, which was stupid to have. That was like so fun to play with. That was a like I don't even know how I got those four, but I got those four. So I had that, but I think my absolute favorite one is I think if I there's a season we played where we allowed Super Uber, so it was like Primal Groudon, Zacian, and this is Gen 8, right?
Mhm.
And I had Necrozma Duskmane, Arceus Fairy, and what was my third Uber? I think I had these. I had mainly these two as my Uber score, and that was disgusting as a core.
Yeah, and the Necrozma Duskmane just as an Uber as itself, like that could be your only Uber on a team, and you really don't need another.
I'm telling Necrozma one Necrozma Duskmane pick in my opinion is like 4 picks. Like it's just that good at what it does.
Dude, I think that Mon is like, I remember playing it that season. I lost to it in the playoffs. The coverage is always just good enough, and it could just sit on everything. Like it did not die in 2 hits to anything. Mon didn't need like some crazy complex investment. You could literally just invest a little bit in bulk, enough in your
Yeah,
attacker speed, set up dragon dances with weakness policy, and it was just like, all right, what are you supposed to do? This Mon was, you know, this Mon is just such a good Mon. It's like way above, and it also like beats so many things. Like it's probably the best fairy answer in the game in Ubers when
yeah,
it's allowed. It's just
yeah.
one of the most complete Mons like ever put together.
It it single handedly invalidates Xerneas. It's that good, and we know how insane Xerneas is.
Dude, it's
So
good against Xerneas with like Geomancy sets. Forget about banning
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
move. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's a mon that so it reward so there are two things, right? It has a very low. So I think of it like this: it has a very low skill floor where if you're new to draft, you can just draft it, pretty much run weakness policy or atomize 3 attacks, and you'll win games. But it
Uh-huh.
also really, really rewards very high skill ceiling, where
Yeah.
if you can really get a lot out of them on if you like run it very differently with different EV spreads and items, and yeah. So I think of it as a mon like that with a very low skill floor, but also very high skill ceiling.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
100% agree.
Yeah, for sure. Because you see it like how the Mon plays and everything. It could be used in very simple ways, or when you start breaking it down even further, doing complex EV spreads and everything. How crazy the bulk and investment you can do with this thing. It just doesn't stop.
It has the
Hmm.
perfect ability, perfect stats, perfect like stat distribution on that thing is like perfect all across the board. You could even like be a like if you really needed to, you could use its special attack. Now with that mon, you almost never do.
I actually ran it specially as well.
Really. Oh, you could with
I
photon
ran.
geyser. You could have a matchup with it.
I think I ran Atomize into Meteor Beam versus a whole matchup.
Oh, that's kind of funny, honestly. Again, you could. The Mon stat spread is perfect, and with that ability,
It
not
has
like well,
yeah, it has 113 special attack from
I
my
know. That's why I
memory.
said like you could
So
theoretically
like
use special attack.
yeah,
And on a Mon like that, you could run Modest a lot of it. If you want to use its special attack, you could legitimately run Modest because it's not like you really need like with that 77 speed, you're generally looking to just outspeed walls or things that don't invest that much into their speed, so you don't really need to go crazy into investing in its speed in a lot of times.
Yeah,
And if you want to get to
exactly.
2x speed or whatever, it's how much do you need to get to an Ubers? You know, there's a few like Uberly, uh, no pun intended, fast mons, but outside of those mons, there's so many things that are oh, they're like slow. They're like 90 base speed, you know, or whatever, and they don't hit really high benchmarks. So
Yeah, I mean, in the last two generations, we have had a lot of very elite tier Uber speed mons, so that's definitely changed. But if you look at it, most Ubers hit 90 base speed, as you said.
yeah,
So that's not that much speed. Also, the fact is that you have the right speed tier where you can even run it in Trick Room very effectively as well, because you can
100%.
just about outslow a lot of things, and yeah, and you're fat enough as well. And yeah, another very annoying thing when you face it is that with its ability, you can't click a super effective move on it because it's so easy to trigger weakness policy. Like that's the first thing you want to check for is like, is it weakness policy? Because it's just such a splashable item on it.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's very hard to prep for them on.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like it always feels like you got to worry about weakness policy on it because it's weak to like certain common moves, but its ability just makes them a lot weaker. Like you want to just click
Yeah,
knockoff onto this thing, and you do that and
yeah,
give it free attack raises.
yeah.
one
Knockoff is a
second.
no no. Is a big no no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We could probably talk about we could probably talk about Dustman for hours because that mon is
Yeah.
so elite, so broken, so everything. So, but Sirkill, a little bit more about yourself before we get into your current day. How did you get into Draft League? Like, talk about your introduction and was it just off of watching that person you mentioned earlier? Or was there something before that that got you into it?
So I remember this quite well actually. If I think it was 2018, and I was just browsing YouTube, and I see this video pop out by Pokeaim where
Mhm.
it was him and his friends. So it was him, Chimpact, MV, and Gator, right? So they were like discussing about all these teams in this something called Draft League. And I was very confused. I'm like, what is it? What is this? What are they talking about? Because I had never seen anything like that before. So I went and checked it out. It was GBA season 8, so that was a pretty iconic season because that's when Wolfie Glick was playing as well. Aaron Cybertron was also
Mhm.
playing. So they had a lot of like big YouTubers playing it back then. So
Yeah.
I just got into the I just really liked the concept of drafting and all that, and I just from there I just got into the videos. I mean I watched everyone that league. I think that's like the only one of the few times I've watched each and every person and each and all of their videos, which was like nuts. And yeah, um, so and yeah, so I was like, I think so. I was very dumb at that time. I
Mhm.
thought for these leagues are only on Wi-Fi, right? So I was like, oh, I think I need like a switch or something to even play in these draft leagues, right?
Yeah, the old
So
game.
I was like, yeah, like I couldn't put two and two together to like think that, oh, I mean they might as well be happening on Showdown, right? So I
Yeah.
had this epiphany like 2 years later, basically, pretty much. I was like, just one day I'm like, oh, I'm such a dumbo, I'm like, I bet they would be happening on Draft League, on Showdown as well. So I just typed in, I was like, um, Pokemon Draft League Discords, right, on
Mhm.
Showdown, and there was this very sketchy, back of the alley website, and it
Yeah.
listed like a lot of those weird draft leagues. And yeah, I just got into one, and from there, yeah, things been going pretty well there. Um, that first draft league is actually very funny. So that one, Okay, that one had like some of the craziest rules I've ever heard of. So it was like, if I remember correctly, so we had 1 minute timer. Everyone had like a 1 minute timer, by the way. So everyone was there to draft at that time, okay? So think of it like a speed draft. Everyone had a 1 minute timer, and it was like there was no playoffs. So like everyone played each other. There were 16 teams, so everyone had to play each other once, and the person with the highest record at the end of the season pretty much wins the season.
Nice.
So yeah, that
Yeah,
was first league I got into.
that's an interesting story because thinking about like weird draft league experiences and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so our start, both of them and I, we have the same start of getting into draft league. But funny that you mentioned your story because when I first started watching all of all those people, I think the first person for me was Shady Penguin. And that's when
Mm,
GBA like came back after like having a hiatus for like a season or that a season that ended abruptly. People weren't having fun with it, whatever, because the original format of their draft league was like you kept Mons for, so you get them on contracts. So a lot of people didn't like that, whatever. They ended up resetting the league completely. And, it's people like Shady, Mega Mogwai, like those are my favorite. A Drive, those are some of my favorite people to watch. But I remember
mm-hmm,
thinking at the time, I was like, man, this would be such a cool format to do. And I was starting to learn like how they were kind of like, especially like Mega Mogwai, like the better players, like how they were
mm.
investing their EVs and stuff. And I was like, man, this seems so cool to watch or whatever. But I guess like this is only something that YouTubers do. I didn't think that regular
Yeah,
people
yeah.
were doing this. It's like I knew you could have just I didn't know about Showdown or whatever at that point. Like I never played on any other site or whatever. So the only time I ever played Pokemon in any form of laddering or anything was whatever teams that I had raised up for my playthrough. I just used those on the on like the live battles on the game, like cartridge. So and I would just lose all my games with that because it's just like, all right, I have nothing EV trained or whatever, and it's just like, yeah, this is not that fun to play or whatever. But I really like watching Draft League. From there, and then out of nowhere, years later, I had my brother-in-law. He mentions to my brother and I, he's like, "Oh, I see this really funny format on TikTok. People they draft these mons, whatever, and then they play against each other." And we started playing with him, a couple of our cousins and friends, and we actually did our first draft on paper and pen with everyone in the room.
Oh,
So
that's so hype.
Dude,
That's so
it was
cool.
so funny. And we are talking, I think one person had to be on FaceTime or something. So we're going through it or whatever. So when people are making picks, we're literally writing this down physically on a piece of paper.
That's
And
so cool.
it was so funny, dude. I think the whole draft took like maybe an hour long to actually get through
Mm-hmm.
all the picks. And then we told everyone, you can make your transactions, whatever. I created a like scuff doc on Google Sheets. That doesn't look anything like the docs we use right now, by the way. This was
Oh yeah,
like I took
all
a
the dogs at that
Pokedex,
time were super scuffed.
dude. I took a Pokedex with like an Excel with the sheets on it, put that on the doc, and I was like manually because I didn't know how to use Sheets or Excel. I wasn't really like using Sheets or anything or Excel. I was like manually crossing out Mons. So like I would highlight the cell
Mhm.
and then click the strike through thing, and that's how it was showing that Mons were taken. Our
That's where
format,
we all started. Don't worry
dude.
about it.
That format though was Gen. It was Gen 8. I think it was Gen 8 Mons from gens 1 through 3 because a lot of people, like the few people, like we had like 8 people, I think it was, or 10 people. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people didn't play like the current game or whatever, but like half the people wanted the current mechanics. So the in between was we'll play Gen 8 mechanics, so Nat decks, but we're gonna
Yeah.
use only Mons from gens 1 through 3. And we're gonna ban
Ah.
Mega Evolution Mons. We're gonna ban Z moves and all those like other funky for mechanics. And that's the way we got started into it. So
Mm-hmm.
again, it was funny how that started. But even that first season, or that first time I was watching Draft League, similar to you, I just didn't think I was able to do that for whatever reason. I feel so stupid thinking about it now, but
Mm-hmm.
and especially like knowing Showdown years later, it's like obviously people must be doing this. But I ended up because that season faltered, people didn't finish. Like everyone dropped during the playoffs. Then I just started Googling and trying to look for draft leagues, and little by little, I eventually found something. One season that I took over for a team, I was the guy who kept taking over for teams because all these leagues were like faltering. Maybe my fault, but I was not winning any of them or nothing. I would just take over a new team, and I never could do the draft, and it took me forever to like actually get my first. I think it took me like 3-4 months to actually draft my first team from the beginning and play it out for the season.
Hmm.
Dude, it was such a fun. It's so funny thinking about it. So then talk about what was your we were talking about our stories of them. I know you were away for a minute. What was the I told them our story about how we did the league in person and everything. What was your first league after that though? Of them.
Oh man, my first league after that, it
Mhm.
was actually one of those like smaller leagues that we did together, ran by I forgot the guy's name, but
I think it was Moon.
I think so. Where I was able to actually draft the team. Like I wasn't
Yeah,
a replacement because I was still new to draft and everything,
yeah.
and I drafted a team, and I was like, let me draft funny offensive mons, and I just kept drafting offense and offense. I'm like, I don't have any defense, do I? And I'm like, it'll be fine. That's where I started, and that league just disappeared out of nowhere. But then there was some like super server which had like 10,000 people that I joined. That I was able to find other draft leagues. That's how I kind of started to grow and like learn more in draft, which that doesn't exist anymore. But I was lucky that I was able to find that to find some of these other servers.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, I remember our early draft experiences. We'll probably go more in depth about that another time with them. Sir, so what's like your favorite, like last thing about like your draft career? What's been your favorite moment in draft, overall so far?
Oh, there have been a few. I mean,
You can list them
winning
all. Let's
your
talk about those few favorite moments.
yeah. So I would say at the bottom, my bottom favorite is um it was my first ever draft win, and so it was a league. I had a very broken team compared to everyone else.
Mhm.
I had like Melmetal, was it? It was regular Cinderace, but it was Cinderace. I was
Yeah,
Dragapult, and everyone else's teams were like not very good. It was a G-Max league, so I had like G-Max Sandaconda, which was like so good for its price point because it
yeah,
tiered it at D tier, so it allowed me to get like an extra tier one basically on my
yeah.
team. Yeah, that team was such a trip, by the way. I had like Gardevoir, Celebi. I don't even remember what else. I think I had a Roserade as well. It was a very cool and fun team. And I went for I got a perfect record in that season, and I won that season. I was so nervous because the person who had matchup in the final, I had like such an astronomically strong matchup. Like it's not even funny, but I
Mhm,
was so nervous, like because it was like, oh shit, I don't know when I'll be able to win a final. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So yes, I mean it was I was like nervy and all that. I mean, come the battle, I freaking demolish him like what 5-0 or something like that. So I was like, oh, cool, I have a championship now. So actually, and I say this a lot, it's a bit of a side tangent thing.
mhm,
I think your first championship is always the hardest. Once you get over that hurdle, after that
yeah,
it becomes like way, 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 way easier, in my opinion. Like I've had some, like a lot of my subsequent battles have been like very, very against some really good people,
mhm,
but I haven't felt that level of pressure I did as compared to the first one I played. You know what I mean? So that my first championship was pretty cool.
mhm,
Um, then there were other big championship wins as well that really
mhm,
meant a lot to me. But I think my most favorite moment ever is and before I go, I would like to shout out all my friends in Hacker Hangout.
mhm,
So a little bit of a
yeah,
backstory. So this was a team tour. This was called the GTTA,
mhm,
and if yeah, and I knew some of the captains at that time. Like I knew Hopeless, and I knew Jesse in that captains this. So I was like, yo, I know you guys know me and all that. So please
Mhm.
pick me in your team. So I sent some messages to them, right? So what ended up happening was in the draft. I mean, I it was my first time. It was my first time actually going out into the public, right? So I didn't
Yeah.
play it more so in the public at that time, like at all, right? That was my first venture into it.
Mhm.
So what happened? What ended up happening was it was like the last pick, and the one of my captains, right, Burger. So it was, I think, Burger. He was like, "Oh, PM me if anybody wants to mock slave," right? That's what he said. So I immediately sent him a PM. I was like, "Yo, bro, I know how to play mods and all that stuff, right?" So he's like, "Okay, fine." And I found this out later, but from my other captain hacker. So they're like, "Oh, in call, Hopeless and Jesse vouch for you." So that's why we got you. And I didn't know they vouched for me in the captain's call, which was really,
Nice.
really cool. So like big shout outs to Jesse and Hopeless as well. So yeah, I got picked up in that team. I was pretty much like there to mock and help the team and maybe play a week there and all that.
Mhm.
Well, I apparently I found out that and I think we had Ubers at that point, so I was helping like one person with like Uber's prep and playing and all that stuff. So what happened was in our week two, I wasn't playing that week, right? I don't think I played the first week either. So
Mhm.
in our week two, what happened was this guy, this one of our members, he had to like he couldn't make it like last second, right? Like he
Yeah.
couldn't make it. So it was, I think it was like an hour before the game, and we were, the series was down 3-3. So it was like the game seven, like the last game to decide the series, right? And hacker, he just messages me. He's like, "Yo, are you around to play it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm there. I can play." And I was very nervous, right? Because these are like these guys who are in the main team tour scene. These guys are like cracked at playing Mons, right? They've been playing since like 2016, 2017 kind
Mhm.
of deal. So he messages me. He's like, "Yo, here's a team we made. Yeah, just try, just see what you can do with it, right?" So I played a mock or two, and I got dumpstered in the mock, right? Because at that point, the issue at that point was I wasn't very good at sequencing plays, right? It was
Yeah.
like, go from X to Y to help Z to do this, right? I
Mhm.
hadn't reached that point yet. So the way I would play was I would more so think like one turn at a time and all that stuff. So I wasn't getting all these game plans these guys were telling me, and it was a team comp I wasn't very comfortable with. So I was nervous, right? And in the end, I remember Hacker going like, "Yo, just win the game. Do what you need to do to win the game." That's literally what he said. And yeah,
Sounds
it
like my
was
advice.
no, that's literally that's what he said. He's like, "Just win the game. Don't worry about it." And I don't know, that just gave me some I don't know, there was some big dose of confidence that gave me. And yeah, I went and played the game, and it was a big upset because the guy who I was playing was also pretty decently good, right? So I
Yeah.
just out of nowhere I pulled out the win, and oh my god, like everyone popped off in the server, in our server. Everyone was like goat reacting, everyone was spamming. People in other servers were pinging me, they're like, "Yo, congrats for like, getting the game." So like all that hype and everything,
For winning a
bro,
week
once I
2
won the
game?
game, I literally ran around my apartment. That's how like hyped I was. Like I was shaking. I don't think any moment has topped that, because winning the series crunch for your team in a team tour has been like way better than all um any other championships I won. And yeah, like big shout outs to all my friends and hackers I know. Then I got so then hacker, my captain, he
Mhm.
invited me to join his group of friends, and yeah, they've been like absolutely amazing people, really nice people. And these guys are mind you, these guys are like some of the best players in the community, right? If you go and see in the DCL and the Clash of Kings, like these are the main guys who are playing there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that whole experience was like magical, and I'm so grateful for it. Sorry, that was a
That's
very
funny.
long-winded answer,
No, that was so
but yeah.
good though.
That was
Uh,
excellent, dude.
you know why? I think it's funny because when it came down to it, you talk about one of your most hyped wins ever is winning whatever the series clincher in a week. It was a week 2 game still, which is so funny and like different for me to think about. I never played team tours yet or do anything of the sort,
Mhm.
but to hear your excitement and to hear the like energy, and I'm just smiling through that whole time you were speaking because I can translate it to when I would coach Aldim's team back in the day, and we had our flag football games and everything of the sort. When you win a really tough matchup that you should not win, where everyone
Mhm.
says it's the other team, everyone says no matter what week it is, those wins feel so much better than a lot of playoff wins and sometimes even a championship win also. Because it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
they doubted us, but look how we did. And it's such a cool feeling. And I loved hearing like your story about even though it was just a week 2 game, at the end of it all, it's just a week 2 game, but the hype around it was like unmatched. And that's what makes the
mm,
moments better.
yeah, for sure. And that, and we'll talk about this later. And that was
Mhm.
my idea for the SGBL team tour because it creates a lot of stories like these and a
Mhm.
lot of hype like that. So I wanted to like kind of, share this with other people because winning a series clincher for your team is like insane. And I think we lost the first week as well.
Yeah.
So it was even more important for us to win the second week. That was
Mhm.
really cool. I mean, long story short, in that league, I ended up going 2-5 because I also there were like three other games I took over last second, but that was like a very big experience jump. And that helped a lot with me, like just getting into the wider, more mainstream draft community. So
And I think the transition there is funny. We're talking team tours and everything, and you mentioned it. You know, the start of our league's team tour, which although you are the one running it currently and you're the one who's heading it and fully in charge of everything, and we thank you for that. You're not actually the reason why we're doing this team tour. Funny
oh
enough.
yeah,
Um,
hey,
so
thanks Gojo. Because of you, I'm juggling like freaking three team tours right now.
and we love Gojo for that, and but ultimately it was so for anyone who doesn't know, I had Gojo hound me every single day for it must have been several days. Byram, I want to do a team tour really bad. I want to see how much people are going to pay for me in the auction. I really want to do a team tour. Can we please do a team tour? At first I told them, "You know what, Gojo, I don't mind. Let's do it for next year." I was thinking because we're going to take a little bit of a break now. After this, little downtime where we do a lot of the speed tour stuff, which we finally are getting into right now. And after we do some of the random battle tournaments and some of the other things we had planned, um, we're going to go into NatDeck season 2 or season 3 of the league. And then after that, I'm down to do a team tour. In the summertime, whoever's committed, it's a perfect, like, or it actually would be in like the springtime. So you can get pretty good like attention and people into it and everything. So like that's perfect. He's like, I really want to do it now. I really want to do it now. I really want to do it now. Okay, I succumb
That's what it
to his
legit
wishes.
sounded like.
Exactly. And I was like, I pretty
We love
much
you,
said,
Gojo.
I was like, okay, fine, I'll listen to you. Last time I listened to someone, we created the most popular draft format of all time in mid tier, which was called low tier and whatever. Thanks to Perturbo, who is, again, one of the best mods ever, but still a psychopath. I hope you're listening, Perturbo. And we created that format, got created. So I was like, there's no way this team tour will be bad, right? Sir, you told me this from before. Creating this format was so much more work than I expected.
the initial work is a lot. There
Yeah.
there is a lot of initial work that's needed. There's a lot of housekeeping you need to do before the
Yeah.
tour, organizing signups, giving people roles, getting proper announcements out, doing the auction. There's a
Mhm.
lot of things that you need to do before the team tour starts. And I mean, yeah, we got through it, thanks to, Byram and myself truly. Gojo was
Yeah.
not involved in the first few things. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but
Motherfucker
but
really asked for everything and then did not be involved at
oh
all
man,
until
I
now.
mean, to be fair to the poor guy, there was
He had
some
a situation.
he
No,
had
we
some
know.
real life stuff
I'm
going on.
gonna
We
I'm gonna
know.
bust his chops
Oh man, yeah.
until this thing is
Oh,
over and I could be relieved of it. But
yeah,
I know Gojo actually has
he's
some
doing the dock work.
serious things.
I'm like barely touching the dock right
Mhm.
now. But
Yeah, he's doing a
anyways,
great
yeah,
job.
I mean just doing all of the initial housekeeping at the
Mhm.
start. That was a lot of work, but I'm now it's steady. We have everything created, and yeah, it's going good. The auction was pretty cool as well. I there was I think people were like hyped a lot as well. But
Mhm.
I mean, I know it's like people's first team tours and all that, but
Yeah.
there's like a lot of the hype in the pics and all the reacting. I I
Yeah.
I wish I would have seen a lot more of it in the as the auction was going on. I think it
Mhm.
was missing that, people like goat reacting or people mass reacting or you know what I mean, right?
No, I get it.
There wasn't much of that, but yeah.
I think there
So
are people shocked at certain things, and there are certain things that, you know,
mm,
people were shocked at how much certain people were going for and everything. But I think part of the
oh yeah,
issue, because this was people's first, so for our league, this is like people's, for our league and the participants of our league, this was a
hmm
lot of people's first team tour. Like,
yeah. I would say
real
like
people,
95% of the people,
maybe not
pretty
that
much.
many, because a lot of the people on Steering and Kebab's team have done their team tours. They're in it in their league currently. There's people like
Yeah,
that. So out of 64 people, but like 70% of the people never did a team tour before, for sure.
yeah. I think that's a better percentage. Yeah.
But I think on top of that, because of how people auctioned and spent their budgets, seems like yourself just picked up 4 people at the very end at like with
Oh
no
yeah.
one to compete with you. So it wasn't even as much. There were a lot of people who were able to just get people at either bare minimum or they had to
Mhm.
spend a decent amount. There's like none of that in
Yeah.
between of like people really fighting each other. So I think that's why it
Mhm.
kind of was like, oh, we don't see as much of that beef for the people like really getting after it to try to get people. And
Yeah.
you
I
guys were
mean,
very content with
there was a lot of auction wars if you saw there, like Dragon of Smite going for like 44K there, which
yeah,
everyone was like, whoa, like everyone
yeah.
just dropped a big whoa at that. But there were a
Well, I mean,
lot of auction wars. That was very hype, and I
there
do
were. I
remember
think the
General
problem
was
was the second
popping.
half. There was a lot less. Like there was a lot
Yeah,
of the auction wars early, and then it just
yeah,
like almost died off quickly because there weren't that many like.
that's how it happens in team
Mhm.
tours, right?
I
The
guess,
start
yeah.
is like the most hype, and then in the end, it's a bit more quieter. Um, I
Teams
mean,
don't have the budgets.
yeah. Me and Quinn and I, so Quinn being my co-captain, we went
Mhm,
in with like a list, like, okay, we want to get this guy at this point, this guy in this,
mhm.
and we were really happy. I'm very happy with the team we drafted. Especially because we got Lavs at like half the price we were wanted to pay for him because we're like, oh yeah, we'll go to him for like 15K, but we got it like 7.5. We're like we had quit our call. We're like, please don't bid,
Mhm.
please don't bid, please don't bid, please don't bid, And we're like, holy, like we got him like 7.5K. Then getting Armenius for 5K was huge. I was ready to drop 15K. That's why I was saving a lot of the budget because I really, really wanted him for mid tier because I did not
Yeah,
want to play mid tier for my team. So I'm like, okay, cool. He knows what he's doing. I really want
yeah.
him. So I saved money for Armenius. It's just that we had budget to like get 4 people for 5K. Ended up
Yeah.
getting Emily as well, who I found out is a really, really good player. Um,
Mhm.
I think
There's some talent.
the thing was that she I hope she's she. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. Um, her Discord name is something completely different, right? And in their app,
Oh, yeah.
it was like some 2012 copy pasta or something like that. So Quinn immediately recognized he's like, no wait, that's Emily, grab her like right now, get her,
Yeah.
so we got her from there. So yeah, and yeah, really happy with who we pulled off in the team.
I think your team was one of the ones who did a really good job. I think even in through 2 weeks, we could kind of see it with your team, right? You guys are, if I'm not mistaken, you guys are 1-1, right?
Yeah, we're 1-1, yeah.
So I think we could see it like, and you've had 2 competitive weeks, but you guys have been one of the teams that have definitely like prepped together the most and are the most in tune with each other. Like some of
Mm-hmm.
the other teams, there's been a little bit more leaving people to themselves and let them do what they got to do at times.
Mm-hmm.
That's not every team. I would say like I think I've spoken to about 6 of the different teams, and like 4 of them seem to like really work together, or like 3 of them like really work together a lot. One of them does a
Mm-hmm.
decent amount, and then 2 of them have kind of like left it to whoever gets assigned their game that week
Mm-hmm.
and however they
Mm-hmm.
want to approach it. So you've
Mm-hmm.
had a little bit of that. I don't know about a couple of the other teams. Those are the ones I haven't talked to their captains yet, but you know, I think, but we see it with your team through the first 2 weeks where you guys have some like really good like set plans in place. Like I say this a lot. I know how good Quinn is as a player. I think Quinn is a really, really good player. And he's a young kid, like really, and he's still like pretty new, funny enough to think about, but still relatively new to this. But the way he played in his week 1 game and the way he knew to make certain doubles in that game and some of the like it was like there's a clear strategy in place. And I was so impressed with his play because you can practice it, you can do it a bunch of times, but when the bullets are live and you have to do it in a real game, outside of a mock, that's where it's like executing now. Do what you've been practicing, trust your moves. He trusted everything. He made every good move in that game. And I was just like, holy crap, this dude just played like I tend to rate players out of 5 stars. He had a 5-star performance that day. Like it was one of the most
Mm-hmm.
like I think that was the best game I've ever seen him play. And he's had a lot of success overall in draft so far. Like he's made the playoffs, made semis, has done really well. That was one of the best games I've ever seen him play. And then when you guys
Mm-hmm.
talked about it, you were able to really dissect the game plan and like really get into it. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like this is the part of the team tour I enjoy the most to watch. As a
Yeah.
viewer, I enjoy oh, this is how we came up with this. This is what we're worried about, and X and Y and Z, and this was the plan for this. Like that was super cool to watch, and I was like so proud of him because I love Quinn, one of my favorite people. Dem's
Quinn
protege,
is Quinn
unfortunate,
is like one of
but
the best people in the world, man. He's so
dude,
awesome to work with.
he's amazing. He's so
Oh,
great. I love that
yeah,
kid a lot. I wish the best for
yeah.
Quinn, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to see him play that well, I was really happy, but I was like shocked too because I'm just like, whoa, he's making plays that are above what he used to make. Like he's really stepping up above and beyond, and I was so proud of him. I was like, man, I hope he can continue this moving forward and continue dominating in draft leagues because I think he's starting to make those plays and he's starting to take that next level where
Mm-hmm.
if I was to rank him, I think I would be like he's probably like a 3.5, a 3 3/4 player, and he's starting to move into that 4 4 1/4. Like that performance was 5 stars, but to do it consistently, like he's starting to move into that like next echelon of players where like you are, where like you're one of the better players. Like you know you're up there as one of the better players. I when I put the time and effort in, I could be pretty decent. I generally consider
Mm-hmm.
myself like a 4 1/4 player, like a 4.25. I think Aldem's like in that range. There's players who just they have it above us. Like I think you're above that. I think you're like a 4.5, 4 3/4 guy. And then there's the people who
Mhm.
put more time in, and there's God bless them, and they should be the best. So, but I think that's like,
Yeah.
but Quinn is getting into that, and I'm like really impressed with that. And you guys really prep well, and your team has been my favorite to watch. Obviously, I've bet with a dim, and I need you guys to win. Um, let's just say one
Yeah.
of us is gonna be dim. It's on you. Do you want to tease what's gonna happen, or
No,
Oh.
we're just gonna keep people in the dark about this. All I'll say
Oh.
is it does involve one Pokemon, and that's all I'm gonna say about it.
Hmm.
dude? It's I'm gonna be really I don't want to lose because unlike a dim, I get embarrassed. I have
Uh,
like actual shame, as they call it.
Yep.
Um, I can't lose this bet. I need my guy. I need my teams to win. So Sirkill,
mhm.
whatever you do, you and your team just win all your games. You lost the game
We'll
already. It's
definitely.
fine. Just go 6-1, 7-1, whatever, and or
Mhm.
6-1 it would be because you're gonna play 7 games and just win. Don't lose.
Yeah. I think so. You touched on a lot of teams. There's different types of involvements in the teams, right? And one of the big things I've learned playing in team tours is you need your captains need to be very active for your team to succeed.
Yep.
Because the more active and involved the captain is in everyone's games and game plans, the more successful the team will be. Like I have seen it firsthand. I've played under some captains who just let you do what you want, and then I've played under captains who really got involved in everyone's games and see, okay, what's he doing, what's happening here, and a big job of the captain is to hype the team up, right? You really want to hype the team up. You want to encourage everyone. You want to say, it's yeah. If we win, we have to support each other. We will react. Goat reacts every time we'll win. If we lose, it's okay. We'll bring everyone up together. We're winning and losing is everything. So it's very, very, very important for players' morale to like hype each other up. And you can I as I told you, right, in the game I won like with the million reacts I got and everyone just messaging me like crazy and tagging me. I want
Yeah.
to That's the type of environment I'm trying to create in the team, like everyone gets hyped up if we win a game,
Yeah.
and everyone I really want everyone to support each other. Everyone, if you are busy for the week, let us know. Or if you can, even if you're on the bench, I want to see you mocking. I want to see you helping out. I want to see you giving constructive game plans. I don't want to say someone saying like, "Oh, Ogre Pawn 6-0s," and like don't like not say anything like that.
That's
Like
the advice
as
I give people, Sirkill.
as one of my as this guy Rai. So big shout out to Rai, by the way. He's right now one of the DCL captains as well. But I was and he's a big inspiration for this. He wasn't a captain for us, so when I played in the TDT, that was the last team tour I played in.
Yeah.
Rai is one of the top players in draft in like team tours, right? This guy is like insane, right?
Yeah.
He was involved, and he wasn't our captain, okay, but he was our like top player, right? He
Mhm.
was involved in every single game, one way or the other. Like he was, like he even learned ADV, so Gen 3, just so he could mock and help us. Like he went super above and beyond, and I was so impressed by that, and he's such a big inspiration all the time and all the responsibility he took for the team as well. So and like and you can clearly see it, and like he credited all of us, he hyped all of us. He's like, and there were some weeks he literally sat and made people's teams. He told them the game plans, he told them what to do. Unfortunately, some were just like not able to execute it, but that level of involvement
Yeah.
from a player like him, it was incredible. So I have like huge amounts of respect to Rai, and I hope you listen to this. But yeah, like I'm like a big fan of yours after that, being in the team with you, and it was like so fun. So
So I would say similar to sports teams in a sense. you have people who are sometimes the captains of the teams, but the teams who succeed the most are generally the teams that have other leaders also who take control and make,
That's
do
very
everything
important.
on top
That's
of it.
very, very important. Yeah.
No matter what the sport is or the team environment is, like you can't always rely on just the people with the title of captain or whatever to be the leaders. You need people to sometimes step above and beyond. I believe actually I think Aldim had a question. Aldim, were you gonna ask?
Oh yeah, I was gonna go into ask about this with. So you are a captain now here on our server, right? Do you
Yeah.
enjoy being a captain of the team, or do you enjoy being a player, like on on one of these team tour teams?
I personally like being a player. Um, for one, it's less
Mm,
responsibility, but
of course.
I it was more so the fact that if you are a top bid for your team, or if you're like a very high bid, then you have this you have a level of responsibility to your team to be more involved as well. So I'm that type of player. Like, even at least for team tours like this, right? Obviously, in the bigger team tours, I'm just like, like the guy who like offer his feedback here and there, help you mock and all that. Because over there, the plays they're discussing is like 4D chess kind of plays, right? So
Yeah.
I'm hopefully trying to get to that point as well. But like, I was like, over here, if I was picked as a player, I would be involved to a similar level as a captain. So like, might as well captain this. But yeah, I personally like playing for the team.
Yeah, no, I can see why. Would you say you would probably have been one of the highest bid players here if you were a player and not a captain?
Depends on how many captains would have known me. That's very important,
Mm,
right? Because it depends on if the captains know you, if you're well known in the community. So I don't know. I probably would have been like 12K to 15K, but I think
You're
I'm overselling
underplaying
myself at
yourself
that point.
so much. Holy crap.
Yeah, I know. Gojo went
Mm,
for 24K, and you're saying you'd go
I
half
mean,
his price?
the, the,
I
the,
think more
the thing
people
is
know
Gojo, the
Gojo
thing
than
is
all.
Gojo is well known, right, with these people, so they know him, they have seen him play and all that stuff. But I don't think people have that many people have seen me play and contribute and all that stuff. So yeah,
I'll
Hmm.
be honest, I think you would have definitely been in the 20s and probably even like close to 30K just for how you performed in Ubers this past season for us, where you had a really good season. And there were a decent amount of people who did know you already. So I think there would have been like, and I would imagine someone like Steering and their team, like if he was gonna look for an additional like higher level player, he would like he knew about you already. So he would have probably spent a decent amount of money, especially after he got some people at like bargains in his thing. He would have
yeah.
definitely would have wanted to go after you for a big
I,
amount.
I I think they were one of the only teams who I interacted with who really did their homework. Like, you really need to do your homework for the auction. It's very, very, very important. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, and can I just say, while we're on the topic of the auction, I think it was, stuff can happen, there's stuff out of our control, and there's some lessons we need to take, right, from situations like this. And I'm talking about the incident where, unfortunately, Nagisa, so she was one of the captains, she unfortunately had an anxiety attack. And I think it was so sweet that everyone just waited, right? We are like, oh, are you okay? As fine. I think we waited like 15 minutes for her, just so she, she could become well, and everyone would be seeing if she's okay. We waited like a good amount of time, and I think that's a testament to us as a community in the
Yeah,
SGBL, and of how understanding everyone was. We had to get moving along at some point. It would have
yeah,
been just delayed everything a bit too much, but just everyone just stopping there and giving her words of encouragement and supporting her. I think that was like so amazing, and I'm so glad Sombra was able to make it. Because he was not available, so he was able to make it and help her out. And yeah, I mean, that was amazing, and I actually shared this with my friends in Hackers Hangout. So my group of friends who I for the team tour, right? And
yeah.
everyone there were like, "Oh my God, this is so wholesome! This is so awesome!" Like, bless all you guys, bless the community. Like, they were all so impressed by it. And we learned that, you know, different things can happen and we should be ready for all these different type of things, like I've never seen something like this happen in a team tour auction before, so it prepares us, for potential incidents like that. So yeah, I just really wanted to talk about this because I feel this was such an important lesson for us to take away of supporting each other and being there for each other when they're down the most.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a nice moment, especially for a community that probably gets um, that people will call like, could be really hot-headed at times and can have people who are very, disrespectful. We've been able to maintain and develop a pretty good community here. So that is cool to see that people were caring and understanding of someone's mental health in that situation. And due to some unfortunate circumstances of timing of things that, her partner was not able to be there like earlier in the day. And that was definitely a nice moment. And obviously I'm happy for them you know, to be able to move past that, and we're able to move past it as a community and get to the next part of that draft. But everyone was very supportive, and that is cool to see. Not every I can only imagine how many draft communities would have probably lost it and been pissed off and everything and not been as understanding. So we were very
Yeah, yeah.
fortunate. This was not that.
Mhm.
This was very wholesome overall. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I would. Yeah, that was really cool. I would say, Sirkill, we're getting to that point where we generally like to close things out a little bit, and we could probably you and I talk. God, we talk all the time. We probably message each other every day or get on voice chat every like once a week at least at this point, and talk
Yeah.
about things all the time. We sometimes get on calls for a couple hours. So without being over too long, we generally try to keep these around an hour. What would you like to is there anything you would like to close out with? Is there anything on your end that you'd like to promote, or is there anything that you want to finish up this conversation with?
So I mean, first of all, I think big shout out to my friends, and I've already talked about them a lot, right? But all my friends in Hacker Hangout, so the place where all my team tour people who I met through team tours are. I think you guys have like really changed my trajectory of being a draft player. Just everyone is very supportive. Everyone's
Mhm.
helped each other out there, and just allowing me to understand how to play, how to prepare, how to build, how to how basically everyone is very supportive, very positive in there. So I'm like really big shout outs to all of them. I think you guys are some of my big inspirations to be here. And yeah, that's my first one. I think the second one is definitely the SGBL team. I think I'm very glad to be able to have the opportunity to host a team tour. I really wanted to share this type of experience with the community because, as you saw by my story, right, and how hyped I was of winning the week, I really want everyone else to feel something like that, because I feel like it is in team tours you really create these stories of, like, oh, he was down and this is game 7, this
Mhm.
could make it or break it, and everyone else is more generally involved in it. Like, after we won the week, right after Arminius clutched it for our team, he's like, "Yo, I felt so good about that win. I don't think I felt this good about a win like ever." So there you go. It's already affecting people in that sense. So yeah, I mean, all my and yeah, big shout outs to all my other friends as well who I've interacted with, and all the different servers. My friends who I started with in the Mons community, in the
Mhm.
GXA. All you guys, you know who you are. You guys are awesome, and like, yeah, just getting into everything. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm very thankful to be playing such a cool format. I think draft is, in my opinion, the peak way to play Pokemon because it really tests you in
I
like
agree.
very different ways. So yeah, I think that's it from me. I don't think I have any other shout outs. Again, thank you all. Thank you, Adam and Baram, for having me. It was a very fun conversation. I think I can talk about this stuff for another like 2 hours, like very
So
very
we could
easily.
we
But
could talk
yeah,
about this
Of
all
course.
day long,
yeah.
and
Oh man, I think. Oh, is there a part two to sometime? Maybe get into some cool stories I have. No, I'm kidding. We have a pretty big list. I'm very glad there's like people who are interested to be in here, and
dude,
hopefully
it's
we can
really
drive
cool.
content for our channel. So yeah.
Yeah, just to make us unique, right? Just more stuff that we want to do and stuff we want to give back with, and the fact that we do have a list, I'm sure there'll be a part two down the line, and there may be other stuff that we may do outside of just the interview format. I kind of want to do these interviews to get people to listen to some of the players in the community so they know of these other players, because when you talk about the stories from the team tours in general, the most interesting leagues, in my opinion, have people who care about the people participating.
That's
One
very
of the things
important.
we had in season one, Frubbles, one of the players in our league, and another one of my favorite people, she talked about during her first season of NatDex. It was one of her favorite seasons, she said, because she actually was paying attention to and cared about the other people in her division, where she cared about those teams and wanted to know how people are doing or whatever. I don't know why, but that was her like response, right? And there was quite a few people who gave me that kind of like feedback, and maybe part of it had to do with our weekly awards that I was writing up for that season every single week and putting my taste on comedy and everything of the sorts of it. Maybe it had to do with the fact that, Aldim was always active and helping everyone. I say this all the time. Aldim might be the greatest helper of any coach in draft history. His record is so good at helping people out but he gives people really good advice and help and everything. Where my record's under 500, so people stop asking me. What's it
Yeah.
called? All my wins from helping people are only to Sirkill, and that's where I get all of those wins from. So the only reason it's not 0%, it's because Sirkill is able to surpass my bad advice. Um,
I've
for
helped for a few people win their championships too. It's like so awesome to see when someone goes all the way, especially after you help them out.
Dude, it's definitely a cool feeling, and obviously you guys gave me some advice and some help in some of the championship wins I've had recently. Um,
Hmm.
so that's been obviously really cool to be able to go to some good resources. But one of the things I want to do with the YouTube videos, and while we get better and develop this, and this was Adam's idea to do this channel, and
Yeah.
technically Gojo mentioned it to us in the very beginning of the creation of the server. Um, it was we want to really create a community and give back and do something that's going to be enjoyable and fun. Hopefully the weekly recaps will be easier for us to do in the video format as
Oh,
opposed to
I would love
thinking.
to do them in video
So that's
format.
the thing. We want to do that, and some of the mods that we're going to bring on board that want to do weekly recaps, we're hoping to like incorporate different ways of incorporating more people and make it fun and exciting. And I think we have some good people on the horizon. So we'll see
Yeah,
how all that goes, but I'm excited, and there'll probably be a part two in the future. But I want people to really care about the people in our community, and hopefully doing these interviews and letting people learn about other people is going to
yeah,
be
that's
a
very
one
important.
step to it. And then on top of that, what's it called? And on top of that, hopefully we get better at doing interviews and make people more interested also, and that's the goal of all of this. Let people learn
You know,
about the people who play and then see how they are as
it's
people and
so
make them
funny.
care.
We talked so much. You had like this general list of questions you sent me, and like we touched like two of them, which is it's so funny.
Exactly.
I think it just shows how like eager we are to talk about our experiences and things.
I think the idea of those the questions that we send are just general questions for people to
Yeah,
feel comfortable, and if we need something to talk about, it'll let us talk. But we'll see how things progress and grow. I have really nothing else to say, and we could talk forever. Then, do you have anything else you want to mention?
Nah, I think I'm good, honestly. I think we kind of touched base on everything for the most part. Of course, we'll never get through an entire list because me and you can think of a bunch of questions to ask, and we'll never get through that list ever. It feels like.
Definitely not. But Sirkill, otherwise, it was a pleasure talking with you, man. I definitely am. Thank you for asking your question at the end, but I like to talk about that also. But thank you for coming on with us tonight, and you know, bye to everyone listening. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
one.